you see something, you think, wow, that's a really good take on hamstrings. I never thought to do it that way, and with a band that can really bulletproof your hamstring.
Give me an example without trying to find this video. Just
describing it in as succinctly as I can. It's basically she got two benches, like you would do like a chest press on with two dumbbells, and got a really thick band, like the thickest you can get, and put that across so it's about this far off the ground, knee height, and then got herself into a bridge position, with both feet, and she would then warm up with her, like with both legs, and then she would go to one leg, and it would be a hop and a bounce from the band to the bench. So a hard surface to a bouncy band, and then because you get the flex in the band, and she would be doing that. And
so the two benches are side by side. The band goes between the benches,
correct,
around. She's laying between the benches, got a foot up on the band.
Correct.
And she's bouncing her foot and then pulling it back towards her to take it off the band?
No, it can go because the benches are like this. They're not like this. They're like that.
Okay.
So she can bounce her foot off the band onto the bench and back.
Okay.
So she's getting and she's got to obviously you don't need to take the weight with the band because the band will flex. So you can let your leg come out and then use the band to come up. But when you get to the bench, you've got to use all your hamstring to halt the downward motion. And I'd never seen it before, and it was really dynamic. So it was
interesting.
I'd never seen it before. And then she did the one which I've been doing this in the gym myself, where you're just holding a plate, like a 10-kilo plate, where you're bending over. And I'll see if I can capture this on the camera when I do it. It's like, can you see? So you pull this leg up, and you go all the way down, holding the plate, and bang it up like that. That's been helping me with not only my hip flexor but my hamstring, and I've always had, as you know, throughout my career, I've had hamstring issues. That's really helped me, especially over the 100. Like, I'm not getting hamstring niggles anymore, but I've been
so it's like a single leg Romanian deadlift or
with a leg drive. Yeah,
sure, or nearly like it's only like a standing bird dog, to a certain degree. Yeah. Like when you do a kneeling bird dog, it's a similar replication of that. Yeah, there's, I think, the bands for hamstring rehab and hamstring strength, because they offer that eccentric and concentric sort of phase, and they're very dynamic and very good for hamstrings.
When you watch Femke Bol do that one, when I stood up, the amount of force they're applying, like she's doing it really dynamically. Obviously, she's a 20-year-old elite 400-meter hurdler. I get it, but the amount of force they're applying to these exercises, it's more than the force that I would apply, simply because we don't need to when you do risk injury, when you're really bashing yourself out in the gym trying to get this workout. But because she's chasing Sydney McLaughlin, who's so far in front of her times have come down so rapidly. Femke Bol's time, that's when she went out and ran a 49.25 on an indoor track. On
a flat floor.
Flat floor.
Yeah.
But indoors. That's insane.
Yeah, it is.
49.25. Because indoor 400s are going to be a bit slower than your outdoor because it's so tight.
What's a PB outdoor?
Slower.
Really?
Yeah. So if this is what everyone's asking the question. If she gets out on an outdoor track now, how quick is she going to go?
Yeah, sure.
Because it stands to reason that she'd go sub 49.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Having that hamstring strength as a track runner, well, for any athlete, but as a track runner, we know is just so important. And you're right about the prevention side of things as opposed to letting them happen. But, my hamstrings are actually extremely tight at the moment. And maybe because I've been running more distance, but it was yesterday I started just to try and warm up a little bit, and I realised that my hamstring flexibility is actually diminished quite substantially. I mean, I let it diminish when we ran track, when I continued to run track as well. I didn't do a lot of, static stretching, which, was a yesteryear thing. We dynamically warm up now. But I have noticed that my hamstrings are definitely contracted a lot more. I've started to do some band work, just typical leg curl, standing leg curl band work, and also just hip extension work, backwards hip extension work, stressing the hamstring. And the band is beautiful for that because it keeps it under that constant load. for sure. But yeah, I must admit that the tendinopathy thing from running distance is a problem. And one of my best friends has just started to run distance, Mick, down in Adelaide, and he's already created tendinopathy, which we had. And I was explaining to him it's a glute related thing. I said, because your glute is not activating when you're foot striking and you're obviously collapsing and hanging off your hamstring, you need to just focus on your glute. And I find straight away by doing glute work, where I think I was telling you, I put the foam roller between the wall and my knee, stand on the opposite leg. So if you're standing on your left leg, put the roller between your knee and the wall with your right leg, take your right leg off the ground, then squat ever so small or slightly up and down on the opposite leg, and your glute burns. You get that instant activation in your glute. So I'm trying to do more of that work at the moment. But yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of these dynamic exercises that people are starting to do. But the bands, I think, is by far the best, tool or modality to use for hamstring style work, right? Do you have bands at the track? Do you take them to the track for the guys to warm up with as well?
Yep. Yeah, I have bands. I have bands, whether I'm in the gym or the track, they always have bands with me. But do you know what saves us as older people doing particularly track, that saves our hamstrings is that other people don't do in any other sport, by the way, that I've ever seen, is get on the fence and do all your leg swings.
Yeah.
Because it's dynamic and you're throwing these legs up and rotating through your hip, you're actually flexing all the attachment points through your hamstring from your knee all the way to your glute. Because you keep flexing it and flexing it as you get older, it just keeps it a little bit lengthened. Whereas if you don't do that at all, as you get older, it just shortens, and all of a sudden you go for a run and you think, geez, my hamstrings are tight. And it's only tight because they've never been flexed for a long time.
It's interesting, is it? Because people, in our age bracket have always been, particularly if they haven't been around sport and seen the changes, they've been brought up with that notion of static stretching is what you do. I was in the office the other day, the girl in the office who is, around 50, she was telling me straight away, her kids can't touch their toes. They never do stretches. And I'm like, well, they play basketball. They don't really need to stretch as long as they're doing some sort of dynamic warm up. But I do see a lot of, and maybe CrossFit has had a lot to do with this, but because there's a lot of high-level trainers and high-level physios in the CrossFit space in the US, that they do a lot of mobility work and weightlifting. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people don't realize how flexible and how mobile weightlifters are. They have incredible mobility. You can look at Olympic weightlifting. I mean, I've seen Olympic weightlifters at quite heavy weights do the splits.
Yeah.
They're incredibly flexible. So, and I think for the younger generation, they've brought a lot of that mobility stuff as opposed to static stretching stuff into the fray now. And they're doing a lot more mobility work. And I see guys in the gym where I go, particularly downstairs in the weightlifting, their warm-ups are amazing. They don't just start lifting. I still get a bit lazy and don't warm up that well still. And these younger guys, they go through this whole range, and they build up as well. They start just with a bar or a broomstick, then they'll use a bar, then they'll add the smallest plates. They're never in a hurry to get to these bigger weights, and their mobility work is quite good. So, and that Kelly Starrett.
But that's the difference between weightlifters and people that try and lift heavy weight.
Yeah, 100%.
They're chalk and cheese. And you can spot the difference when you walk into a gym. You see the idiots who have strapped everything up because they've got a bad back, bad knees, bad everything. And guess what else they got? Bad technique. Yeah,
100%. But I think CrossFit has been good for that aspect. I think their mobility side of training is actually much better with the CrossFit, the CrossFit world. Whether you love CrossFit or hate CrossFit, it had some aspects of it which, obviously gets a lot of injuries. But I think the way they warm up is actually quite good.
The good ones, yes. 90% of people do CrossFit. They're dumb. I've got no time for it because it's organised stupidity. Let's just see how many dumb exercises we can invent, and let's just find out how many times you can do it. And hopefully nothing happens to you. That's how I view CrossFit.
Well, it's one way to look at it, I suppose. Well, I told you I'm starting to train for this High Rocks event, and it is different because the exercises, the one thing I'm enjoying about it, one, I'm just enjoying different training, and two, the exercises are set. They don't change. You got to run 8 times and you've got 8 different exercises.
Yep.
And I'm struggling with the training because I've had to up the intensity and the volume, because one thing I'm finding difficult is go from something quite strenuous. Example, you've got to do 200 meters of walking lunges with a 20-kilo bag.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you finish that, you've got to run 1 kilometer.
Why? Why don't we?
Yeah, but I could ask.
Why don't we just get everyone to run 400s, and then at each 50-minute interval have someone standing there with a big stick and just hit them over the head whenever they go past?
But we could ask why about anything then, though, right? Why do we put two guys on the field to stand in front of each other with a helmet on and run into each other? Right, what's the purpose of anything?
But I can make a case for, let's just find out who can run the fastest mile in the world. Like, I can make a case for that because it's the mile, or it's 800, or it's who's the fastest 100-meter runner in the world. Who can do 200 push-ups and then try and climb a rock wall? Who cares?
Yeah, but there's a counter argument to everything. Who cares who can run a mile the fastest in the world?
Well, people do care. That's the interesting thing.
Well, CrossFit has 320,000 competitors, I think, at the CrossFit Games. So someone cares about that as well. It's got a big following.
I know. Well, they had the CrossFit Games at the Performance Centre a couple of months ago. They brought them there and put it all out on the track, all the equipment, everything.
Was it the Games? So some sort of qualifying, or the Australian qualifying or something?
The Games, but it was an event for CrossFitters.
The main CrossFit Games still was in the US.
And I sat and watched a bit of it, and it was just the people that were there. It literally looked like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. It was literally like
sounds like a Masters track event.
Yeah, well, yes, in some regards, yes, you could certainly say that. But it's just from where I was sitting, I was just shaking my head, just looking at these people and thinking that, number one, they've got too much spare time, and number two, they're really just. I reckon if you walked down there and had said to them, "I'll tell you what, go and buy yourself the biggest pair of tracksuit pants and let's see how many dash hounds you can shove down the front of your pants," they'd go, "Mate, I'm down for that." That's the smartest thing I've heard all day. That's how stupid people are. Seriously.
Well, I think there's a counter argument to everything in life. I mean, people do say that people that run marathons are stupid.
Well,
if I tell anybody that, so I think it doesn't matter, whatever floats your boat. If it's getting people out there doing something, I'm actually excited about this High Rocks event. I have to say, it's been a nice way to train, just for a bit of a difference, as opposed to training the gym all the time, just going for a run. I've been able to combine a few things together, but it's challenging, and I can assure you.
I like climbing as well. I like climbing, and I like rock walls, but I'm not going to do 200 squats and then try and do it.
This isn't a rock wall. There's no climbing in this. High Rocks. So High Rocks is quite new. I don't think they've even had an event in Australia. So the 8 exercises are, just so I remember the order. Hang on, let me look at my phone here. It's so after every exercise you do a 1 kilometre run, and you have to.
And there's 8. You're going to run 8 Ks.
It's a ski erg. Got to run 8 Ks. Ski erg, sled push, sled pull, burpee broad jump, rowing, a farmer's carry, sandbag lunges, and wall ball squats.
Oh my God.
The thing about that I do like about it is that it's all, none of the exercises are really complex. So it's not like CrossFit where the exercises can be quite complex. And obviously they make people do a lot of, snatches and single arm snatches and clean and jerk and maximum weight overhead. And so I think some of their exercises for majority of people, even a muscle up, and I couldn't do one now with my shoulder. So to be able to go on the rings, put yourself to here, then get yourself to that muscle up position there's technique to it, but it takes a lot of strength. And now after having surgery, I couldn't do it. But the interesting thing about the High Rocks event, there's very little upper body stuff. It's all legs. So your legs just get absolutely toasted. But it is within the realm of everyone can actually learn the exercises. It's not overly complex. And I also like the fact that every event, you know what it's going to be. So you can actually train for it in a proper way. Where CrossFit, as you well know, they don't actually tell anyone what the event is. So you turn up on the day and it's like this big secret, and you could have trained, somehow they must know what they're training for to a certain degree. But So the High Rocks events are a little bit different, but they're becoming quite popular, and you can put them in small events, and they're being run by these obstacle course racing companies. That
Yes.
I didn't realize how big they are. They've exploded around the world.
Massive.
And one of the biggest ones, I think it's Invicta or Invictus or something. They do one of the big races. They've done a joint venture or some sort of deal with. They've made a smaller version of even High Rocks. High Rocks is a standalone company, as I understand it. They've made a smaller version of High Rocks, and they've partnered with one of the gym chains in the US, and they're going to be able to run these events inside the gym, which is interesting. And what I'm seeing will happen, Chris, is High Rocks Germany. It started in Germany in 2018. They've partnered with a gym company in Australia, I think called BFT, and I forget. You can look those up. I don't know what it stands for. Body Fit Training or something. He's got, I think, maybe 240 studios. They've partnered up with them, and I think what's going to happen, they'll quickly become, there'll be the whole certification thing we'll go through again. There'll be a bunch of High Rocks coaches come out, and they'll be setting up, if you want to train for these, you get a coach and blah, 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 which you probably need because there is some complexity around it. And I've been helping Radia train for it a little bit as well. And it's interesting, as we well know, just this whole progressive overload thing that people don't understand. And she wants to do too much too quickly. And I'm saying, well, no, you've got to actually, slowly introduce the load. But anyway, it's interesting. I think the first year they had 30,000 participants globally and predominantly in Europe. And this year already 120,000 people registered. Mate, it's not a bad business model. 130,000 people registered already. Yep. And I think it's $140 to enter. And 130,000 people. So 18 million bucks.
Well, have you heard of Rogaine? The
hair stuff? Make your hair grow?
No, this is called Rogaine. It's another.
I think I tried it many years ago. As you can see, it didn't work very well.
No, this is similar to that. I'm driving up with Sam to the mountains tonight, out to this place called Muggera Lake, out the back of the Gold Coast hinterland. And tomorrow morning we're doing an orienteering straight into a bike leg, straight into a paddle, kayak. And there's a couple of hundred people going to do it. Who'll be, and a lot of them are very, very competitive. So,
and where are you? What's the orienteering part? I know what orienteering is, but what do you have to do?
You give you a map and a compass, and they let you go out into the mountains, and you've got to collect X amount of markers in a certain time.
I will say, and I see them in Saturday mornings, I think, or Sundays or something around Sydney here, near the bridge. And they're running around and people just running all over the place. They've got their headlights on, so they've obviously started quite early in the morning in the dark, and these maps. And every time I see the people doing that, I just don't get it.
Well,
it looks like an Easter egg hunt to me.
It's an Easter egg hunt. It's exactly like that.
It's like...
Yeah. So
I need someone running around behind me, telling me when I'm getting warmer and getting colder.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, pick up a map and a compass and go and find as many Easter eggs as I can. And then I have to jump on a bike, and I think I've got to ride for at least 2 hours through the mountains. And then I've got to dump that, and then I've got to get on a kayak and paddle. I don't even know where I'm paddling to. Down some...
Why do people do this?
Yeah, exactly. That's the same question I asked them. I said, why are we doing this? And she said, no, I got talked into it.
Yeah.
I said, fine, I'll do it. Her kids want to do it, and they're very excited about it. They love that stuff. They love the variety. They love running around the bush like headless chickens, and I'm just like, fine, I'll do it. It doesn't – I don't mind the bike and the kayak I'm quite interested in. I love kayaking, and I love bike riding. I'm not – running around the bush like a headless chook is not really my gig. I'll do it, but it's, I could care less if I did or didn't do it.
My point is that there's something out there for everyone, right? There's as this guy, Sam Parr, I was listening to the other day, go onto Reddit and there's a subgroup for everything.
There is. Totally.
Doesn't matter. You come up with the most random thing, frog collecting. There's a subgroup on Reddit.
Oh, yeah.
There might only be 3 people in there,
Yeah.
but there's some people in there.
You know, if they stuck a guy out on this first part of this course, like every flag you found, they gave you chocolate ice cream, I'd get more excited.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's nothing.
But it sounds like that's what's that race on TV they have? The Great Race or the
Oh, yes, the Amazing Race.
The Amazing Race. And they turn up in different places and they've got to, it's kind of the same thing, right? Just going to find clues and off you go. So
yeah, and I've actually done one of these in Vienna. I was on some corporate junket once, and we arrived at this place, and you had to collect these huge multi-puzzle things that you strap to your back. They were massive cubes, and we didn't even know why we were collecting them. We were running all the way over Vienna looking for these things, and there were clues like chocolate cake and schnitzel and this and God knows what. And when we found them all, and then we realised they actually formed a puzzle. And then you had to put them all together. We found it. We all ended up in the same place, about 20 teams, and everyone had these things. No one knew what to do. And then we're like, it's a puzzle. And then we all started assembling them, and each puzzle told you to go somewhere and do something else. And it was just, it was actually really, really well done. And it was exciting because it took you to every major, really, place around Vienna. Tourist place.
Tourist attraction, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vienna's a great city as well. It's a really beautiful city.
Oh, my God. It was just stunning. And you went to places you would never have thought to go, and that actually was pretty exciting. I thought that was...
Do you have to pay to enter this event on the weekend?
Yeah, shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's not cheap. I think it's like $78 per person.
So the business models are interesting to me, just how they model these things up and whether they actually make money. I can see this High Rocks thing just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, as I said, because even though it's extremely hard, I think it's, for most people, it takes about an hour and a half to complete. I think the world record holder is 58 minutes. But it is obtainable to a lot of people that want to play in that, difficult space and push themselves quite hard, as opposed to things like CrossFit, which a lot of people can't even participate in because it's, the complexity of some of the exercise is beyond. But it just says to me straight away that, people in this space, they're looking for something, right? They're looking for these challenges enough people actually enter them.
They are.
So, and I think, mate, it just goes back to that old adage. So if we can get people off the couch and outside doing something, running around with the compass trying to find Easter eggs, who cares? As long as they're doing something, right? So,
well, some of them, just to get them to blink is a good step.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what you'd love on the Gold Coast, by the way, when you get up here, which is so popular, and they get hundreds and hundreds, sometimes 1,000 people, is parkrun.
Yeah, so we've got parkrun here, though. They're all over the world.
It's everywhere, but it just exploded. And it's that magic 5K mark.
Yeah, I agree.
That everyone's to break 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the magic number. And all of my 800-meter runners and a lot of the athletes that are up here that run middle distance all do parkrun. All their coaches say just go to parkrun Saturday mornings.
Yeah, I think it's I'd heard of it. I didn't know much about it, and I haven't done one yet, but I've got one close to home as well. I'm going to start doing them. But I think that from what I see and understand, it's just, again, that participation thing where people can actually say, during the week, all call each other and get 5 people together and say, hey, you're doing parkrun. Whether they walk, run, or run the whole thing, turn up with your dog, turn up with your kids, whatever. It's just, what can we go and do? And it's over and done with early Saturday morning. Yep, I think they're all the same time, aren't they? 8 o'clock?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you get milestones. Like one of our guys, he's about to complete his 100th parkrun, and he gets a special shirt when he does it. There's all these milestones because everything gets recorded. So and people then get addicted to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a really good event. It's all run by volunteers. It's cheap to enter. Yeah. I think that's an amazing event. And I noticed on their website, you can just set up your own parkrun. They say, want to set up your own parkrun? Just fill this format type of thing.
Yeah.
I know the closest to me is Mossman and North Sydney have one. So
up on the Gold Coast here, there's like 4 of them because they have 4 different courses. Like there's one course, like the one they do up here at Runaway Bay, it's a flat course. But there's another one they do a bit further south that's got hills. So you can challenge yourself over, and there's one they do at Main Beach as well.
Yes.
So there's different ones all over the place. So, and people travel around to these different parkruns to get their times on the different courses. And then it just becomes this addictive thing to try and get your milestones under your belt and to keep improving your times, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Not everyone's in that space. I mean, some people just love it for the sheer. They have
for the participant.
They bring the dog, the this, the everything, and then they go have breakfast after. It's that kind of atmosphere as well. So it's got something for everybody, and I think that's more appealing than CrossFit, because CrossFit is just for this very narrow band of people that can do a variety of things really well, and most people can't.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but yeah, good. Well, I've got nothing else to add. And what we should do is maybe if you get a chance, dig that video out of that
Femke Bol.
Those band exercises. Yeah. And
I'll look because I remember saving the link, and I just want to show you I'll put it up and show what you, because I'd never seen a hamstring conditioning done like this before. So, and I haven't actually had the courage to try it yet, but I do 90% of what she does. I already do, but this one I'd never seen. So
interesting. I'd like to have a go as well.
Yeah.
And I like the bands are just such a great thing to use and a simple thing to actually set them up anywhere. So anything with bands, I think, is a really good thing to be doing.
100%. But I'll dig it up. I've got it saved here somewhere. And it's just a YouTube link of Femke. It goes for about 5 minutes of watching her do these exercises. And she's a tiny athlete, but her output is phenomenal.
Yeah, awesome. All right, that's a wrap.
All right, done.